The journey's just begun. It's for the better. Team Rocket's on the run. We're friends forever. You've got the power right in your hands. But instead of using that power appropriately, you just went ahead and made a 3D version of the movie. Welcome, one and all, to another kicking off the weekend edition of BananaCast. Hello, banana cream pie in the chat. Perfect timing. Oh my gosh. So I had a few different ideas of what we could talk about tonight as we were coming up on this, but then out of nowhere, my everything was filled with Pokemon the last couple of days. A lot of Pokemen are showing up and doing stuff online. So I figure that's good enough for that's good enough for, you know, branding or marketing out there. So might as well run with that right now. Yeah. So lots of Pokemon news. What the this first rant is reacting to is I guess they are remaking or have remade the original Pokemon movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, and in this really weird looking 3D, like Pokemon Coliseum looking 3D or whatever, and I'm just like, no, it's one of those things where it's like, again, the 2D held a certain amount of magic, and especially that era of anime, late 90s, like techie looking anime is such a cool, unique style that you really don't see anymore. And I don't know, for the clicks or whatever, they've remade it as a 3D movie. Who even knows if they're using the same audio or not, which would be another shame, is if all those quality 90s like songs and stuff were then dropped from the movie, or they rescored it or whatever, because there's some nice music in there. The score is very nice as well. Especially in the scene where Mewtwo starts whipping up the whole storm and such. See, this is very partial to my heart too, because growing up, I have very fond memories of seeing that first movie, Pokemon the first movie, just like BananaCast the first podcast. Very fond memories of seeing that as a child, and I don't want my childhood ruined, just straight up. No, I'm kidding, but I'm just saying. I can appreciate it to the extent that maybe it's reintroducing some the new kids, the Zoomers, to like Gen 1, but I just don't like it. I just, you know, I don't know. So yeah, that's the one Pokemon news this week. The two Pokemon news out of three, there's three significant things that have happened this week. Number two Pokemon news is there was another Detective Pikachu trailer where he said the hell word. And everyone has lost their shit. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Pikachu said hell in the trailer. And it's in the context of he's like literally going in a cage match against a Charizard. And and Ryan Reynolds runs to the side and he's like, get me the hell out of here. to the guy, whatever his name is. And I had to laugh. That was pretty funny. And so, of course, everyone's taking that to its logical extremes of, okay, when do we get Pikachu to say, you know, the fuck word or whatever? So that's always great. Hello, everyone else coming in the chat. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And also, regarding Detective Pikachu, was the appearance of Mewtwo in that trailer, which was pretty radical, where he like bursts through, what was it, like a blimp or something? Like they have like a Macy's Day Parade, like ironically or whatever, self-aware, in Rhyme City, and he like blows through, I think, the Pikachu blimp, and it's pretty good. I like the way they designed Mewtwo in the context of all the other Pokemon in the movie. Like, he doesn't look as off-putting as like what was the one's name, the one that was in the bar, not Lucario. Anyway, the duckbill, like leap pad looking thing guy. That looked weird and awful. And then Snorlax looked just like under like generated, under CG, like they had one resolution step down for what he should have been. Like his fur was too, like, it was too thick. Not just Snorlax himself being thick, but the fur was like a Samoyed, like a Shuby dog, rather than, like, I don't know. Snorlax always looks smooth to me. I pictured if it did have hair, it would be like finer, but I guess Ludicolo, thank you. But yeah, so Snorlax was also, you know, rolled on in there, sitting, or rather just sat there. Rolling would imply movement and energy, a motive force. And then the final piece of Pokemon news this week is, of course, the announcement of Pokemon Sword and Shield. And then, of course, everyone knows in 6 months or a year later, they're going to come out with Pokemon Gun, which is what I'm waiting for, of course, because that's going to be the best version. That's the version where even if you lose, you hold up the trainer that beat you and take his money, and that's how you pay for for your things the rest of the game. It is pretty radical when you think about how, like, everyone in the Pokemon world just accepts this system of, like, oh yeah, it's all a gamble. Like, if you lose, you get money, or you give your money to the person who beat you. Like, I don't know. There's got to be more than just the various teams that break those rules, probably. Banana! Yeah. Yeah, so so Pokemon Sword and Shield. And of course, one of the reasons it's called Pokemon Sword and Shield is because this is the British Pokemon. We're going to jolly old England and Scotland, and we're going to have a good old time with the with the British and Irish and Scottish Pokemon trainers. See, I've been out of the Pokemon loop for a while, so I completely forgot that they had the New York Pokemon series, like 4 generations ago or something. What was that? Was that Black and White or Black and White 2? I don't know. It had the one, the one like short shorts girl or whatever. Yeah, so I forgot that they did a thing in New York before they even touched Hawaii. But now they're doing like almost the polar opposite of Hawaii with Britain. So everyone's having a good dance, and there's like piles of fan art already building of the girls being cheeky cunts to each other, and yeah, just being very, very Britishisms. So that's really, really enjoyable. And then of course all the suggestions of like what kind of Pokemon, like Biggie Benno or whatever, Big Ben themed Pokemon, and I think the whole region is called like the Hans region or whatever, like an abbreviation of Stonehenge or Henge. Yeah, so that's great. That's completely expected and appropriate. So did anyone actually play Black and White New York or Alola, Sun and Moon? Can you comment on, like, I remember when they first started advertising Sun and Moon, how weird it was that it's like, okay, so this is the tropical island like region. So they have like an ice version of a bunch of Pokemon, or like a frosty or albino looking version. Like I remember seeing there was like the Vulpix but snow. And there was like a Sandshrew, I think, but snow, and all these like ice variants. And I'm like, is this like ironic? Like did the Alolan people like specifically hunt down or breed a bunch of like ice variant Pokemon just to help deal with the, summer conditions up until, Carriermon invented refrigeration? I don't know. It was, that was kind of weird, just as an outsider to view. I can't wait for this new Pokemon game. It looks fun. Yeah, I haven't beat that shit either. I haven't played a Pokemon game to completion since Ruby and Sapphire, the originals. Well, I shouldn't say that. I did play Fire Red and Leaf Green, the first remakes. I played Fire Red to completion. That was pretty fun. Yeah, so that was all pretty cool. That's a good time. Many Pokies were had. It snows on Mauna Kea. Yeah, no, I'm sure it does. I'm just saying it is still interesting that they had to squeeze in, the ice variants of everything. Even if it does snow on Mauna Kea, I can't imagine that it's like year round or whatever. I don't know. It's like, my understanding is, what is it? The Big Island volcanoes, they are some of the tallest mountains in terms of volcanoes, but that's only if you count measuring all the way to the base at the bottom of the ocean. Like above sea level, it's not, obviously. That's like Everest and stuff. I only have 2 Pokemon games, sadly. Yeah, I was very heavy Gen 1 and 2, and then a little bit of Ruby and Sapphire, but that's kind of where I phased out. So my like game allegiances were Red version, original. Then I got Yellow, of course. And then when Gen 2 rolled out, Neo Pokemon, Gold and Silver, I got Silver. And then I got Crystal, of course. And then with Ruby and Sapphire, I got Sapphire. Obviously. Beautiful. Oh, that's the other thing. I never figured out. When I was a kid, I used to call the main legendary Pokemon from Sapphire Kyogre. I'm pretty sure that's not right. I'm pretty sure it's Kyogre, like ogre, from what I've heard recently. But now I'm not really sure. So in the back of my mind, I still say Kyogre, and because Kyogre, I can't not picture like Shrek, like fucking riding it or whatever. So anyway, it's a neat design. I like that Pokemon, and yeah, it's just, I like the blue. The blue is good. Except as a kid, I like fire type Pokemon better than water type, but I don't know, he looked cooler. I like the look of Kyogre over Groudon at the time. And then I was pretty much phasing out of that, so I ended up not getting Emerald. So that was my history of Pokemon. Oh man, the good old days too. Stadium 1 and Stadium 2 on the N64. Oh man, those were sweet times, weren't they? Man. But then basically once it went off of N64 onto GameCube, I did get a GameCube. So then I wasn't into Coliseum or any of that. So that's when that was the beginning of the phase out for me. Well, honestly, it was when then I eventually got an Xbox, and so my gaming went very back heavy to console. So it was all, Halo and all that good stuff. Hello, every banana. So Pokemon are like onions. That's a really interesting question. I remember, I think 2 years ago, I was like, okay, we've got like, 15 years of Pokemon lore now or more? Like, what the fuck are Pokemon? How are we like cramming these animals into these tiny little balls which effectively neutralize their weight and mass? And I remember some YouTube video that was calling it like a they had a theory that the thing that set Pokemon apart from like normal animals, because there are normal animals in the Pokemon world. That's been confirmed, I believe, across spectrum in anime, cards, and the games. That the main difference between Pokemon and animals are that Pokemon are made out of like energy. Like at their core, they are like, I don't know, they're like just beings of pure energy that like have physical manifestations, but that was the whole like physics premise behind why Silphco and others are able to magically cram them into these little mirror balls that 10-year-olds can go carrying around, across the countryside. You didn't miss anything on the GameCube, trust me. I had a friend who had a GameCube, and yeah, the only positive experience I remember playing with him were obviously just the next version of Smash, Party, and Super Mario Sunshine. Sunshine was kind of neat, just because it was kind of like, I don't know, different. I think that was Smash Brothers Brawl too, right? That was the one that introduced Mewtwo. So that was sweet. I remember playing as him, but he wasn't as good, so I switched back to Samus. And that was before I knew Samus was a chick too. That just made it better. It's like a reverse trap. It's like, oh, the boobs made it better. All right. So you got a big giant arm cannon. How can you not like that? Yeah. So so that was my So yeah, the lore behind Pokemon is very interesting. I want to know what is the science? What is the science behind Pokemon? Or how for them evolution is this like instantaneous thing that just like happens immediately? Like that was another funny thing. I remember growing up in the 90s America, where of course there's there were all the religious debates about, have evolution with kids. It's like, this is nothing like evolution. This is like, Digivolution is just as realistic, or, well, slightly less realistic, because Digivolution, you can go back to your base state, but it was still ridiculous, and it's like, no, this is like, no. So, that was always fun. But yeah, anyway, what I'm trying to say is, the original Gen 1 was better. You remember the 90s? Remember the 90s? They were better. So I actually they had a special Blu-ray release a few years ago where they had all three movies combined onto a Blu-ray steel disc. And it was the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, and then Pokemon 2000. I forget what the individual movie was called. I think it was like the Song of Lugia or whatever. It's the guy with the goofy, floating ship. And then the third one was Entei and the Unknowns. But the thing that sucked, when I bought it, I was expecting it to have all the same-ish features as those original VHS that I had as a kid. And so all three of them were missing the mini opening movie thing. So, the most memorable with Pokemon the first movie was Pokemon Vacation, where you got those first little introductions to the next generation. You had your... Meryl, which we called Peekaboo at the time, and is it Snuffle, the pink dog looking thing, and all sorts of stuff. That was great, man. I gotta track down like a higher res version of that somewhere, and a couple of the other stuff. Started crying over the grave of the 90s, rip. Yeah, the 90s are dead and we killed it. We killed it with emo music. No. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd front load all the Pokemon topics since that's the headline of the podcast. But of course, we can talk about anything else you guys want. I got, roughly 2 hours or whatever. We're keeping it reasonable to whatever. So yeah. I mean, it is a spoiler, but I guess we could talk about the big trailer for season 9 that dropped. Should we, let me pull the chat before I actually mention it. Did everyone get spoiled already by the season 9, trailer? I guess I'm kind of at this point now where I'm like, if the studio spoils something, it's kind of all over anyway. Because of the mechanics of social media, like, you're going to get spoiled one way or another. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of like, what's the right word? Apathetic to spoilers now. I'm like, okay, obviously the studio was being really, really moronic by doing this, but, it's whatever. I guess it's worth talking about. I'll give it another minute to see if anyone protests, if anyone's innocence has been maintained, and you'll be able to stay off the internet for another month before season 9 starts airing. But yeah, it was interesting. There were a lot of things I liked in the trailer, and there were some things that I didn't like. One of the things I didn't like was, of course, the little demon child, damn Flurry Heart, the worst character except for Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash. And it's just, I don't like the implication of the trailer that Mr. Villain that appears, like, that's gonna be the big end game is just This is, he's stolen the child. I don't know. The other thing I'm kind of upset about too is that arguably the biggest creative thingy that I added to the horse fandom is Fall of an Empire, and now there's a very big chance that this could fuck with my already thin canonicity. Like, I think I'm still in the gray area now, like of vagaries, because the comic was like an alternate universe or whatever. But I'm pretty sure if if it goes on, it's probably it's probably gonna ruin my canon. So, oh well, that's fine. My story's probably better anyway. No, I do hope they use them effectively. I want to see like them really put them to good use. Give him an actual backstory now that's canon, that's good, rather than the nothing. That's kind of the weird thing about about Sombra, about the season 3 opener, is that it was like they really. He had no backstory whatsoever, and even a lot of people really didn't care to like fill in the gaps. And so I don't know. At least my impression was I didn't see a lot of like fanfics or whatever that utilized him. It was just Discord for days and all the classics, Nightmare Moon and Chrysalis all over the place. So he kind of got like brushed to the side really quickly, maybe because it looked like he'd been killed, but now it's looking like he didn't get killed, obviously. Spoil me, Skybolt, my body is ready. That's another thing we could mention is my body is Reggie. Reggie Philami, which I didn't know that's how it was pronounced. Sounds French saying it like that. It's another thing I've said incorrectly for probably years. I've been saying in my head Phil's Ames, because everyone just called him fucking Reggie. But Reggie is retiring peacefully from Nintendo, and he is handing it over to the clutches of the bows of Bowser. I cannot believe Nintendo found someone whose last name is Bowser in the US to give the position of president to. I mean, we're going to get so many memes, so much fan art for his entire tenure, which if it's anything like Reggie's, going to be almost 2 decades. Yeah, Doug the Bows. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Oh, yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Why are you giving me the circle of death? What the heck? Come on. Catch up. Don't do this. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to assume you guys can still hear me because it's okay, I think it's fine. Yeah, Doug Bowser. I can't believe that either. It's so great. It's like, how many other characters are they going to fill in? Like, the only way it would have been funnier is if somehow his first name was Mario. Somehow. Like they found a guy named Mario Bowser and then just immediately promoted him, even if it was a shell position. They just like, you get the job. Oh, Luigi? Yeah, so it's funny, man, but Nintendo knows what they're doing. Like, I thought the Switch would go the way of the Wii U. I thought it was just going to be another gimmick, but it looks like where the Wii U went wrong, the Switch went right in every necessary way. So I guess I'm glad that they got the Gremlins worked out. Yeah, people do love them Switches. I played the Mario Kart for Switch at a friend's house who actually has a Switch, and that was a lot of fun. It was a very good time. It's a me, a Tentapie. So the Bows, this is very Nintendo heavy podcast. What else is going on with the Nintendos? I don't know if there's any new Samus news, is there? Metroid. Link, obviously Wind Waker or Wind Walker, Call of the Wind, Call of the Wild, has been doing well ever since that released. I found out a friend of mine who I didn't know was a Nintendo guy secretly had a Switch, and he's been like going full Zelda for like the last 6 months, so that was really funny. Yeah, yeah, I know. Only 8 watching. I'm not timing these things as well as Nettle did the other day. Oh, I'll throw out there too. This is obviously not begging or whatever, but any BananaCasts from now until BabsCon, if anyone wants to super chat or donate or whatever. Woo! That was way more expensive than any of us expected. Like we took we took out our allotted con expenditures from the Patreon pot, but holy hell, the we didn't get our confirmation of our panel until just like last week, and the rooms are expensive. And I guess it's a 4-day con this year too, so that's been exciting. So just putting that out there, that any BananaCast donations from now on go to the make BabsCon as great as we can fund, which is great. So the other thing we're gonna try to do is get more art up on the Redbubble too, and get some really to be honest, some better framed designs and graphics and stuff. I really didn't have any like control over setting that up, and then once I finally checked it out, I'm like, ew, everything's all like missized and everything, like it doesn't line up on anything. So I'm gonna hopefully get that fixed up a bit myself. Metroid Prime 4 is delayed. The original developer Retro Studios is involved. Oh, that's good. So it is delayed, but it's got the original developer, so that's got to be a good sign. Are you going to BronyCon? Probably no. Probably 100% no on that. I don't even know if we actually put in for a panel, and it's just too expensive to fly cross country. Like, we're driving to BabsCon, and the hotel's already expensive enough, and doing that and Everfree, which is also basically a guaranteed panel, is pretty much going to exhaust us. Like, the one time I went to BronyCon, they didn't give us anything this year either. Oh, speaking of cons, that is one thing we could talk about. That was a happening this week on the Brony internet. Was the big con survey put forward by Purple Tinker and Wootmaster. So obviously that's been it's been a lot of fun following, horse drama. Horse drama is always amazing. But damn it, let me find the link now. What the hell is this thing? Come on. Oh my God, there's 1,000 tweets. Where is the survey? We can walk through it together. See what everyone thinks about what they would choose for the oh my God, are you kidding me? Okay, Control C, Control F. Oh, come on, man. Where is it? Wait, what was that? Nope. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to find it now, am I? You've got to be fucking kidding me. Come on. Come in. Where is it? Wait, was that it? Nope. Awesome. Cannot find it now. Awesome. Okay, let's try Wootmaster's Twitter. Maybe he's got it linked somewhere better. Here we go. Okay. Thank you, Woot. Porn click rate. It's not the mouse that gets that kind of attention. All right, come on. Load now. Load for me. Is this a fucking joke? Come on. Yeah, I know I already responded. Thanks. Okay. Now let's walk through this. Okay. I love this opening too. Due to recent changes in the fandom, a lot of people are nervous about the future of brony conventions. So let's figure out what the fandom really wants. This survey should take approximately 15 to 30 minutes to complete. It did not take that long. We understand it's a lot, but the more data we get, the better future conventions will be. Plus a free gift. If you complete the survey and you want stuff, you can, submit your email and your name goes in for whatever. So, privacy statement, your identity will not be sold, we swear. I'm sure. Okay, so it's got basically 4 or 5 corners of the US, or Canada, or Mexico, or Europe, or Asia, or South America, or Africa, or other. So I'm not sure where other is. I guess Antarctica for the one brony that's stationed at a research station in Antarctica. That's what's for you. Okay, first, would you like a free souvenir? Yes, please. Here's my email address. Okay, next page. And so I'd like to hear in the chat what you think as we're reading this too. So, what is your ideal price for a weekend? And I'll say what I chose in my logic too, and we'll see if we get the conversation rolling. What do you think is an ideal price for a full weekend base level badge? So, basically, in my experience, except for this year, which is the oh shoot, I was trying to come up with a good sexual metaphor. The finishing year, let's say that. Normally these cons seem to be 3 days, and they seem to be like $60 for a weekend badge. So that's what I put. A full weekend badge. What do you think is ideal for a full weekend base level badge? $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, or $100? The climax, thank you. That is the word I was looking for. I'm seeing a $50. I personally chose $60, and I went off of the logic of it's been mostly that way at every convention I've been to, which is now almost 10. Oh my god. And I think it makes sense in the sense that it's $20 a day. So I guess Sunday is a little bit short because you don't have a big super night splurge. So I could understand 50 or 60. I chose 60 just to be, generous. Then the next question is, what is the maximum you would ever pay for a base level non-sponsor admission badge? And for that, I again thought, okay, what do I think is a reasonable amount for a full weekend, considering all the other money that goes into conventions that, you spend in the vendor hall or transportation, hotels, and everything. And so I chose $80. I thought that was more than, enough for a maximum. Yeah, I'm seeing similar in the chat. How do you feel about paid panels or quote-unquote con DLC, optional events that cost extra money? And it had the 5 options, which are strongly dislike, I don't like paid panels, but I understand why they exist, I don't really care, I like paid panels and they're a good way to fund cons, and then I love paid panels and more likely to go to a con if they have paid events. I chose second from the bottom. I do not like paid panels, but I understand why some of them might exist. So, if it's like a special thing, you have to I guess the example I used in my head was a costume contest. Maybe you have to have I don't know, a $5 entrance fee or something in order to, submit your costume. I don't know, something like that. I don't like the idea in the general sense, because I think it should just be a badge and you can get into all the events. Yeah, drinking party, maybe a cover price. But I put, I don't like panels, but I understand why they might exist. Just, I don't know. I was trying to be generous with some of my answers. How do you feel about convention sponsorships or high-tier badges? And again, it's the 5 options. I don't like, at all, period. Or I don't like, but I understand why they exist. Don't care. I do like them. They're a good way to fund cons. And I love them, and we need more cons that use them. Of course, I never pay for those high sponsorship badges. I mostly try to get panels so I get a badge for free. So I picked, I don't like sponsorships, but I understand why they exist. Because I do understand that some of those people who pay, they pay for the $1,000, like, super royal equestrian badge, and they get to hang out with all the VAs and go to lunch or whatever. I do get that. I get why that might, draw funds and such. Okay. How far would you travel to attend a convention? So, again, this is interesting because it's like, how far would you go? What is a reasonable price for transportation to get there? And so it has up to 10 miles. So it's like you got to live like down the street. Up to 100 miles. So within a couple of cities, that would be like Brony or BabsCon for me. Up to 500 miles, which would be like across state lines, and then up to 1,000 miles, and then over 1,000 miles across continent, and then anywhere on the planet. So, those last 2 are way out of my range. I picked up to 1,000 miles because, reasonably speaking, that's the only distance I've ever traveled to go to a con the farthest, which was Everfree, which I don't think it's 1,000 miles, but I think it's like 800 miles up to Seattle. So that's why I put up to 1,000 miles. So it's like a $300 plane ticket round trip. And now the next page. Okay, this section is really what kicked off the this is really, or no, wait, not this one. But yeah, kind of this page is what kicked off the controversy in the first place, which was like Purple Tinker started with this whole thread about about like basically Brony's, I'm paraphrasing for comedy, but the effect that a lot of people inferred from the Twitter thread was bronies are kind of cheapskates and they need to fork out more money to conventions if they want conventions to keep going, which I very much disagreed with. And so the leading contrarian voice to that was Wootmaster, which if you don't know him, he's a famous rapper, drummer, brony musician guy. He pops up at a lot of different cons, but he's pretty great. Anyway, so then he had his whole counter thread to her about the cons are way too expensive because they've failed to adapt with the fandom, with the community, and he listed a whole bunch of things like don't pay for overpriced VAs, bring in some different people, show animators and character designers and whatever, and just kind of threw out a lot of different ideas that are just basically like, you got to change things up a bit, and you'll get a higher return on people, probably. So that's where the survey was born, so to speak. So on this main section, how do you feel about special VIP experiences or perks for sponsor badge holders? And for me, I thought, okay, if you're going to have these sponsored, like, tiered, super expensive badges, then, yeah, obviously, whatever badges they have, like you should get some good shit if you're dropping $1,000 for a badge. So I like it, it helps sponsorships and funds the con. And then now we get to our first block section, which is how would the presence of X type of VIP guest affect your interest in attending a con? And these are in... I really love the order these are in. Are almost alphabetical. And so then the first blank is agents. Like agents for, I guess, the VIPs or whatever. And I'm like, okay, the only reason I could think someone would choose that is if they're like a medium to large, like, scale VA, and they're hoping to, like, rub elbows with one of the actual show VA's agents and, try to get them sauced up and then try to, slip them their demo. Let me show you my mixtape, basically. That's the only reason I can imagine someone would be interested in that, which I'm nowhere near close to any of that, so I put little to no effect. I don't care about the agents. I know I'm not going to get a deal anywhere. Second one, artists or animators from the show. And I put obviously more interested. I would like to see artists and animators from the show. And now my deep thoughts about this whole thing in the first place was the reason VAs are the best guests is because they're performers. That they're good for cons because you can put them on a stage, you can give Tara Strong or any of them a microphone, and they can have fun with it. They can improv, they can bullshit, and they can make it a very entertaining on-stage experience. Not that the others can't. You know, obviously they can show off really neat, like, you know, slideshows of art or storyboarding or whatever, but I understand why voice actors are the main draw. It makes a lot of sense, and that's the character. That's who you relate to most directly. So show animators, I put, yeah, more interested. This is a 3-tier thing. So it's little or no interest, somewhat interest, and then way interest. So 1, 2, or 3. Character designers, again, I put some interest. Comic artists, some interest. Directors or producers, I put way more interest because, yeah, these are people actually leading the show. Their stories about background and development would be really interesting. Musicians, way more interest. Obviously, I want to hear about the scoring. I want to hear about all those process. Storyboards, way more interested because a lot of writing comes from storyboarding. Toy or product designers, somewhat interested because a lot of them are kind of like, meh, the fandom generates much better crap than Hasbro does. Voice actors, obviously, max interest. Writers and authors, so like screenwriters or authors of, I don't know, the books and whatever, very interested. And then finally, previous generation guests, which I don't know the previous gen. The most experience I have with the original gens was that my sister was an OG Pony fan from the 80s, which I couldn't imagine telling her that today. I don't talk to her much, and she has no idea about this side of me. So I could not imagine having that discussion with her today. Anyway, she's like Lauren Faust's age. So I put almost no interest in that. And then finally, one of the key dispute questions was, how interested would you be in a convention with 0 VIP guests? Now, for me, I infer from that okay, so if you're not inviting all these like production VAs, I'd assume that they'd invite a lot more like fandom people. That would be really neat. I would really like to see a con with a hell of a lot more fandom people, including me, in that, and make it like, buy bronies for bronies or whatever. That would be really neat. So I would like that of the 6-tier thing. And then, of course, there was a 0 answer to this, too, of I would absolutely never go to a convention and have no interest if there was no VIPs. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Purple Tinker. We see you. Thank you. Let me check the chat real quick. Read my fanfic as blank. After MLP is over, I wonder if there will be a new generation. Yeah, they immediately are boosting a new generation with this CGI movie in 2021. So, yeah, they're already rebooting it to something else. CGI, it sounds like. Yes, Gen 5. Is EQG continuing? I have no idea. I've heard nothing about, slowing or stopping that development, so it sounds like it's just a totally different studio, and they seem to be only building it up these days. I mean, they introduced the new online series just last year, so I don't know. Yeah, hopefully it's made by people who still, yeah. Okay, so next section in the mega survey about community people, fandom people. So, how would the presence of this type of community guests affect your interest in the convention? We start off with the brony analysts, the brony analysts. Now, I've never been one to watch any of the brony analysts. Like, the only one I kind of watch is DWK, and he emphatically says he's not an analyst. They're totally legit recaps, and he makes fun of analysts a lot. But that'd be the most I'd count. But I put more interested because it's like, that's something good you'd want at a convention. Number 2, collectors and museums. Yes, I'd be very interested in that. A, because it usually would mean more merch, in the vendor's area. And B, it's kind of cool to see some of the classic stuff or some of the really elaborate things that people have done in fandom stuff where there's only one of them and they donated it to a traveling museum kind of thing. Number 3, con organizations. So I'm guessing that's I don't know, the con whatever group, I don't know, these little drama storyline things they do. It's okay, I get it. I'm more interested. Cosplayers, somewhat more interested. I like seeing cosplayers around. Costumes are neat, especially the hot ones. I don't really cosplay myself, so it'd be as a casual observer. Remember, look, don't touch. Next, fanfic authors, writers. Yes, very much interested, especially me. Next, fan artists or animators. Yes, very interested. Fan game devs. Yes. Fan musicians. Yes, especially me. Fan VAs. Yes, especially me. Fan podcasters. Yes, especially me. And then well-known fans such as Dusty. Yes, clearly. And then YouTube ponies in general. Yes, especially us. So, community guests. Yes, of course you want to see all the big community guests you know and love. Why wouldn't you? Okay, how do you feel about kids or full programming? This is one where I'm probably diverged from possibly a lot of people who answer this survey, but I chose I don't like it. I don't like seeing a lot of resources devoted to the kids. That's what Hasbro Con is for, or HasCon, whatever the hell they called it. That's for target audience. These are brony conventions that are mostly for the unsettling, adult fans of the show. I don't like seeing a lot of the little kids running around because it's just disturbing. I'm just you've seen it, this is a fandom born on 4chan. You can't mix kids in with that. There's it's the wrong direction I want them to move. Instead of serving more to kids, which don't probably get half of the crap that, is going on in the fandom, I wanted to go the other way, which is another question coming up soon. Next question. How are you interested in previous gen guests? Not at all, but I don't care one way or another because I just ignore it. Whatever. Next up, how interested would you be in a convention if it featured a small portion, up to 30%, of non-pony content or guests? This I put neutral in I don't care one way or another, and I put it in the sense that if it's in connection, if there's 1 or 2 degrees of separation, that makes sense. For instance, there was a BabsCon where what's his name was there who played the little sprite guy, Vegeta. The Vegeta VA was there because he's the little, Scandinavian sprite creature guy from season 4. And so, of course, then half of a panel was talking about anime and sort of ADR and classical anime from the 90s. That was great. I loved that. So if it's stuff in connection with things the show people have worked on, if Lauren Faust came to a panel and she had a panel about Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home with her husband Craig, the Kraken, and whatnot, that would be neat. That's what I'm thinking of in terms of the 30%. But I put a neutral answer because I'm not sure if that's what they're thinking of. I'm not sure if they're thinking of just tacking on unrelated shit in the corner just to put asses in seats. That I don't agree with. Next, how much do charity auctions interest you? I put neutral. I don't really go for those just because I'm usually, the charity is donating and buying a lot of crap from the vendor hall. I usually don't have enough then to do something like that. So I don't care either way. I know it's one way to draw interest in a crowd, so that's good, but Do you vend at conventions? I put no because I technically don't. We've never really actually sold anything yet. I don't know if that'll change this year or at some point, but no. How interested are you in these kinds of merch? Badges. This is a 4-tier. Dislike, don't care, like, or love. Badges, I like. I like all the neat little badge additives and things that people hand out or sell. Buttons and pins, same thing. I like those. Cards and games, I like those. Charms and keychains, I love those. Those are great. Clothing accessories, love them. Sculptures, statues, figurines, love them. Dakimuras, I like them. I've never bought one, but I like seeing them on the shelves because it's so damn ridiculous, especially considering that they put them in the show. I cannot believe they got away with that episode. Walking in a freaking Daring Do convention and there's a Daki of her tied up in rope. Oh my god. I don't know how the hell they got that past the Hasbro censors. Oh man. Next, fanfics, fan comics. Yes, love that. Houseware such as soaps, teas, and towels. Yeah, I kind of like that. Jewelry, I kind of like that, but I can never afford it. But it's neat seeing that options are there. Plushies, fan-made, yes. In the sense that the really complicated ones are neat to look at, but then there's like the 40E plushies that are actually affordable, and those I buy. Prints, posters, postcards, yes, obviously. Tattoos or whatever. I like seeing them. It's kind of like trippy seeing someone get a pony tattoo right there at the con. I'm ink free, but that's just me. It's neat to see. Stickers or decals, like it. Official Hasbro merchandise, yeah, sure, that's fine. Old gen merchandise 1 through 3, don't really care. Next question. How likely are you to go to a con with a big vendor hall? More likely. I want more crap to buy. That's neat. I like seeing vendors. I especially like seeing more people get the opportunity to vend. That's a big deal. That could launch a lot of artists. That could really help get the word out, and that's a big deal. Next, just a random question thrown in. Who's your best pony? So it's Sunset Shim Shams right now. And maybe that'll change, maybe not. I don't know. What is your typical spending limit at the con? Oh, wait. Vendor hall and the con store per convention. So this is everything. All the merch you might buy. This is like an annual vacation event for me. So it's $0 to $10, $11 to $25, $26 to $50, $51 to $100, and $101 to $250. $251 to $500, $501 to $1,000, or over $1,000 if you're one of those people. I put somewhere in the middle. That's about $100. That's a good limit. Maybe a little more. Depends on what's there. It really depends on what's there. And autographs cost money too. So yeah, I usually end up spending more than I should. But that's conventions for you. Next, how interested you are in these kinds of con merch, specifically from the con store? Buttons and pins, interested. Drinkware, mugs, flasks, interested. Plushies, very interested. Con plushies are usually made pretty, not cheaply, but they're affordable. So like I've got the Golden Gates plushie, and I've got one of the BronyCon ones, and they were each like $20. So those are cute to add to a shelf. Posters, prints, postcards, yes. Shirts, clothing, yes. Stickers, decals, sure. What is your level of interest in con merch? I like con merch. They're neat things. I like, like having some con merch. How much do you generally spend in a con merch store? 20 to 50. That's the selection I made. I'm thinking, the one plushie and then maybe a print or a shirt. Or like a pin for your badge, for your lanyard. Now here's where the good stuff comes in. After dark content. How interested are you in a convention that offers adults only or after dark content? Yes. More of that. We need to push the fandom back into the shadows where it belongs. Especially at BabsCon, they have a few really quality like after 10 p.m. after dark panels. Always enjoyable. Super fun. The VAs get liquored up and they start cursing at each other. It's so great. It's seriously so much fun. How interested would you be in these various kinds of adult content? Panels, yes, love it. Adults only vendor halls, yes, that's fun. Adults only party floors, yes. Drinking, like pub trots. I don't care. I don't drink. So, page 9 of 10. How much do you go to the concerts, dances, raves interest you? Sometimes. It's nice to have. I'm not really the biggest into like the dances or raves. I'll watch like musicians, but I'm not one to just like, jerk around on a dance floor. Don't usually have enough Adderall to hit the floor for that long. How much of a presence of a renegade stage, a second smaller stage in a public area interests you? Very much so. I would love to see an alternate sort of like open stage for people to just go up and do shit. That would be great. I would crash that like a motherfucker. Okay, here we go for boosting newer content, essentially, or lesser seen content, because that's one of the big criticisms of BronyCon this year is it's just basically like, it's like going back to classics, but it's bringing in all these people who kind of been like snooty assholes and kind of like have been out of the fandom for a few years, but they're coming back for one last go around, and everyone is like, man, what about some of these people who've either been here from the beginning and never left, or newer people who've worked really hard to get to a higher echelon in the vacuum of some of those OG fan people? It's kind of a dick move in my opinion, but asses in seats. So this selection is not interested, more interested, or very interested. So newer musicians, new to the scene, very interested. I want to see new people. I like seeing that the fandom has new life. Rarer musicians who don't play many cons, yes. I want to see more people like myself who have not had very many opportunities to actually play cons. That would be sweet, please. Next, show music talent, such as Ashley Ball, Michelle Krieber, etc. Yes, yeah, I like hearing them just do more general songs and stuff too. That's a lot of fun. Dance and EDM type musicians, sure, that's fun. Live performers, solo instrumentalists, ensembles, yes. Rappers, yes. Rock musicians, including unplugged type bands, yes, very interested. Vocal performances as singers, yes, very interested, especially me. Whiskey, porn, and loud music. Yes, that's what all cons should be. That's the whole point. Get sloshed and make a new friend. Okay, final page. Do you prefer conventions to be held in convention centers or hotels? And what polarity? Do you strongly prefer convention centers? Do you more prefer convention centers but are okay with hotels? Don't care. Prefer hotels, but convention centers okay too. I strongly prefer hotels for simplicity. To just be able to go up an elevator and you're in your room, it's a lot simpler. If you're buying crap at a vendor hall, you want to immediately be able to then ride up your elevator and lock it in your room so then you can continue enjoying the con. You can walk around. To have to like leave a convention center and maybe go a few blocks to your hotel, that's a hell of a hassle. I don't like that. I want it held in the same hotel as the convention. How important is each of these factors to you? Nearby cheap food. Very critical. Yes, there's gotta be cheap food. Everything else about a con is fucking expensive, including a lot of the hotel food. There's gotta be a nearby fucking McDonald's and Toxic Bell that you can load up your liver with instead of the, the $9.95 hotel, panini wraps at lunch. No, we need cheap food. Nearby parking being available, yes. Especially the cons I drive through. Nearby parking being free, yes, as much as possible. Mass transit, don't care. I generally don't. I'm not one for public transportation. Handicap accessibility, I don't need it, but it's good to have. Proximity to airports, yes, very critical, especially for cons I fly to. And then they have an optional blank of, is there anything we missed? Which I thought this was pretty, conclusive. At an earlier point, they had left cosplayers out of the questionnaire, which did draw the ire of some cosplayers, but, whatever. Finally, my housing and hotel budget per con is usually $0. I stay with friends or family. 1 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 300, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, or 5 and above. I put in the 100 to 200 range, just being realistic. Again, even if you split a hotel room with a few people, you might be paying for it. Okay, so let's review your comments again real quick. Yeah, I also fear that the new TV show is just gonna be back to normal. Basically, it's gonna be back to target audience. You gotta rinse the brains of some new chillins. Gen 4 is gonna be the uniquely brony gen. It's not gonna be like this again, and it probably won't happen like this again either. Yes to new music. Convention center to avoid craziness. Yeah, that's an opinion. I disagree, but that's all right. The brownies need to come to the Phoenix Delta Hotel close to Sky Harbor. That does sound fun. Okay. Now let's see what the Equestria Daily commenters wanted to add in regards to this survey. I am curious about this. Make them into a horse racing news conference. What? Wow, what is this shit? It's a good answer. It's too bad they don't want Patreon money for what? For the sponsor? It wouldn't hurt if they got a small extra money to keep them floating. I'm guessing this is because of Purple Tinker. If what they say is true, future PonyCons are in trouble. Even Galacon admit it. Yes, it was. What do you mean? Is it going to be the end of cons? Check their Twitter. It's about something to do with PonyCons closing, except, and then Purple Tinker responds, con attendance is overall slowly shrinking. We're trying to make the shrinkage slower. The fandom will live on, but there's still many cons, but fewer each year. Yeah. Go check their Twitter. Oh, yeah, and then someone's bringing up the swatting of HarmonyCon. Oh my gosh, that was awful. Sadly, the survey can only be done with a login. I've never heard. I don't remember that. I put in my email just because, I don't know, whatever. It's sort of certified Skybowl opinion, whatever. Does my opinion matter if I don't go to cons? I mean, yeah, you might as well fill out the survey. I mean, especially if it gives them info that might get you more likely to go to a con, especially. I tried, but IDK, it was long, and a random convention I went, but whatever. Okay, so we're also getting through the ennui comments of TLDR. I'm gonna read through 10 pages of this shit. I never attended a con. I hope they keep going to keep the fandom alive. I remember one person at work was at a convention center and he asked me if I knew anything about the pony thing because he saw a bunch of normal looking people at a pony convention. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, interacting with normies, that's something else entirely. Oh, here we go. Well, that was a disappointing survey. It didn't ask about whether you would want cons in certain cities or locations that don't already have one. For instance, I still don't have a con in Denver, and in a city like that, being how large it is in terms of population, never having a single pony con, and at one point having to drive up to Salt Lake City, a much smaller city, did have a pony con. Such irony. There was a blank of things we missed type question. Denver did actually have a pony convention running of the Leaves Con. It ran for a few years, 4 I think, and then in 2017, con had some issues and it was pushed back and eventually didn't happen. That I didn't know. I don't usually think of Denver as Leaves. I mean, I get it, but it's like, you think that would be like Mountain Con, but I guess Salt Lake City already took that, right? Theirs was the Crystal Mountain Pony Con. Not too surprised about cons dropping nor the survey to change anything. Yeah, I don't think the survey would actually change anything either. I really don't expect a lot of convention planners to like sort through it scientifically, but I don't know, whatever. I filled it out. I tried. That's the important thing, is you tried. You know, even if your vote means nothing, it's still important to vote. I want a small or medium-sized convention of some of my favorite YouTuber ponies, and in DC. Ooh, no, not DC. DC's a fucking zoo. Just go to Baltimore then. If you want a pony con, that's the big OG con. You know, just go to that for one last year. Yeah, distance to cons, that is the biggest problem. That's the hard thing about online communities, man. You're not always living near where they happen. I would like to see one devoted more to board and tabletop games. Okay, well, that was a question for sure. Will the results be published for the curious of mind? Yeah, I do hope for that too. I really would like them to publish a big spreadsheet, you know, graphical breakdown of everyone's answers and you know, as much data and statistics as they can. Just put it out there. Even if con people don't go through it, maybe, you know, enough of us will, and conclusions can be drawn and people can vocalize, you know, the results of the survey, whether or not a lot of those people actually are paying attention or not. And that looks like the most of the responses. So, okay. Hopefully you all took something out of that. It's definitely something worth asking, especially as we're you know, approaching the final season and not sure where things are going to go from here. Is that Skybolt? No, this is Patrick. Yes, I agree. I come from the furry fandom. Or no, I agree, come to the furry fandom. Yeah, that's kind of the weird things. Bronies are already kind of counted as furries. I don't necessarily agree, but I also don't have enough evidence to the opposite, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I think bronies are like furry amphibians. Like, if furries are reptiles, bronies are amphibians. It's like kind of the same, but there are a few differences. I don't know. Oh yeah, we've already talked about spoilers. Yeah, it's it'll be interesting. It makes me wonder now, is El Sombre going to be the big end game villain, or is he just kicking off the opening 2 episodes, and then the big end game villain's going to be like Grogar or something like that, and Sombre will just be like a part 1. Maybe he'll be like a minion, like I don't know. Who knows? It's going to be interesting for sure, and it's probably going to ruin my Fall of an Empire canonicity, so, oh well. See, I try to write it in such a way that, you know, as long, like the Sombre that appears, they just treat that as the evil shadow creature. So the actual Sombre that is dead, and Luna tries her best to just pretend he's long dead, and this is just an evil shadow creature that's taken his form. And I figured, you know, that way the show can't directly counter it unless they like show a very detailed, you know, breakdown of what caused them to be banished in the first place, which may or may not happen. So, fuck. that'll be something else. Oh my god. Someone did a Milky Way cosplay. Oh my god. Yeah, so okay. What else is there to talk about? What should we be what else can we discuss aside from cons and the death of the fandom? Everyone, no! Yeah, I know. It's something else, man. See, it's interesting that they're bringing him back now, because my interpretation of the whole Pony of Shadows thing was them trying to actually do a somber type storyline, but good. So I don't know. Actually, furry are getting more and more diversity of different people as different animals, so honestly think horse people would have any problems. No, I mean, I'm just talking about like the essence of whatever the furry fandom is. Like the brony fandom is this very specific, like, linear thing. Like the furry fandom started out as a cobbled together interest in, you know, in whatever the various the animal themed communities and scalies or whatnot. And so it's just like it's like a broader category. You know, if we're talking about furries are like a phylum, and then bronies are like a family or an order, or, you know, some level lower. I'm admitting, yeah, it probably technically falls under furries because it's such a wide umbrella. But like I guess the capital F furry fandom, I'm not sure if it exactly counts, because bronies are this very unique thing coming from a very unique, you know, unique anchored thing. I don't know. I'm just fucking around. Yeah, of course, that's the funniest thing, that bronies came from 4chan, and a lot of people don't know that. Like, that's how I discovered 4chan, which is really fucked up looking back over that. So, yeah, so that's the fandom right now. It's pretty awesome. I don't know. I don't know what happens from here either. I guess I'm just trying to ride out this last season and make it the best it can be. Like, we just so happen to be ending a lot of our major shows at the same time. We're just reaching the final conclusions. And so I'm just like really trying to make this a good climax. And then whatever happens afterwards, we'll go from there. You know, we'll see what happens. I know for sure we're going to end Confessions no matter what. 5 fucking years. I'm going to end that no matter what. We are going to end Wasteland Survival Guide. I know there was a bit of a hiatus, and then there was a bit of a second hiatus, but my understanding is Neil's getting some good stuff recorded, and we have a lot more written, and so once she gets those starting recorded and us rolling them out again, we're going to write the rest, because we've got a whole sheet of what's planned to be made, including the final chapter, the afterword. So that's all going to come out. We're going to put them all in a nice order, remaster some stuff, and, you know, put it out there. Probably as one big video. One big, like, 4-hour audiobook, too. And one final audiobook remastered release, also. And the same thing for Confessions. I finally figured out, how to do noise cancellation in my stupid Mixcraft software. So I was able to do a test run over some old stuff, and I'm like, damn, it sounds so much better. It actually sounds like a professional audiobook now. So we're gonna run some filters over those and make them a lot better. So the final Confessions remastered super duper package is gonna be great. Gen 4 started as a fanfic. Yeah! Maybe that's what a lot of people connected to. One of their favorite creators of the 90s, Lauren Faust, one half of this awesome animation duo, growing up being a fan of the original. And I think a lot of people connected to that sort of feeling, for sure. Oh shit, this just in, the airspace is closed around Pakistan. Oof. That's the other thing too. We might not need to discuss the end of the fandom if we end up getting World War III from India and Pakistan. So, oof. I always feel like we need to mention like nuclear related news on the channel just because we're adjacent to that sort of thing. And so, yeah, you know, the happenings back and forth of nuclear armed India and Pakistan. That's kind of important. It's like the dynamic between them is interesting too, because Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, is right on the border of the region in question, of the Kashmir area, and so that's really close for comfort. I can imagine like Pakistani authorities really don't like they would love to have all of Kashmir just to add that buffer between them and India. India, on the other hand, New Delhi is a bit deeper into the subcontinent, but at the same time, you know, it's still this really tense border dispute. And then China's kind of involved too, which is always fun. It always gets better when China's involved. That's the lesson from the Fallout series. And watching some of these commentators on both sides too, like I guess there's a rule of thumb of a lot of nationals or whatever that say that India has the numbers, but Pakistan has more quality military equipment. And obviously, I'm taking all this at face value. I have no idea if any of this is true. It's just what I've read online. So India obviously has numbers, population, and whatnot, but Pakistan apparently has more developed military equipment. But at the same time, I'm reading a few Pakistani commentators that are like, "Oh fuck yeah, this is long overdue." You know, they're ready to go. So it's like, oh, okay. You know, what are the odds in Vegas right now on if this becomes a full DEFCON 1 happening? Yeah, so that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Only good things can come of this. You know, it's funny to mention, and again, this all comes back to us. Confessions. As I've said before, Confessions of the Wasteland Pony is highly influenced by the World War Z story by Max Brooks, and the dramatic audiobook especially. But in the World War Z novel by Max Brooks, when all the zombie shit starts going haywire, India and Pakistan are the first ones to nuke each other. Like almost immediately, they start going nuke crazy, blaming each other for the undead. So, so even in fiction, they're like, man, you got to keep your eyes over here. This is where shit goes down. It's really funny, but yeah, it's these smaller states that I guess. I shouldn't say smaller states in their case, but a similar kind of thing happened with in that old Cold War book, On the Beach, where it was started by, I believe, Algeria. In this timeline, Algeria, you know, it still gets independence from France, but on its way out, it takes a couple of nukes with it, and for whatever reason, they end up starting the Cold War, or the Hot War, World War III, and then everyone full on, yeah. Cobalt bombs the fuck out of each other. So that's always fun. Yeah, no, don't watch World War Z. The movie is worthless. The only good thing about the World War Z movie is the theme song, which is just the Muse song, the Second Law, I believe it's called. Yeah, it's a neat song, the instrumental of it. But that's it. Literally just the theme song is the only redeeming piece of art of that entire movie. Yeah, the American calculus in this is interesting too, because China will take Pakistan's side, because China is like somewhat partners with them, and it's part of their new, you know, the modern Silk Road initiative is they want to run a train line through Pakistan. And then they've already bought like a port city in Pakistan to have access to the Arabian Gulf and sort of that sub-oceanic region for trade, to really increase trade with the Chinese mainland. The mainland, which grows more and more every day. You know, Omnom Tibet, and then Omnom, is it Jingshui province? The northwest one, where the Uyghur, you know, Muslims are. That's a whole thing too. So, but still, my understanding is that Pakistan and China have pretty close relations, especially because China and India have pretty not close relations, because they've gone to war a couple of times in the past also, and they have this active border dispute near Bhutan, which is a very it's like a Himalayas, like high Asian country. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, China will take Pakistan's side, which means India's a bit boxed in, but at the same time, the U.S. is very obviously pivoting to India's side for a number of reasons. A lot of them historical, and even recently they renamed the Pacific Fleet the Indo-Pacific Fleet, and it's like very obviously trying to make closer partnerships with India. Not the least of which is because India is the major check against the major communist state of China. So, yeah, yeah, ultimately, it's probably going to come to nothing. You know, it's going to cool down. There's going to be phone calls behind the scenes and everyone's going to chill out. But, you know, if we didn't walk through the potentiality of happening scenarios, then where's the fun? The Cold War generated so much fun, end of the world fiction for everyone. I mean, I guess speaking of angry nuclear states, with North Korea this week too. That was fun. North Korea too. Vietnamese Boogaloo, which is really strange context for talks like this to be held, but yeah, it didn't work out. Obviously, there's still more talks to come, theoretically. And all I'm sitting here is thinking, like, well, duh. You know, you've had the foreign policy establishment talking about, like, fucking invading Venezuela for the last 3 weeks. Why on God's earth would North Korea give up their nukes? The U.S. is still talking about doing all this bullshit interventionism, which a lot of people voted against, and a lot of people still want to vote against, but, you know, apparently you can't vote on that. We just have to keep fucking with every country until every country finally gets their revenge. Not really, you know, without cause either. Same thing with the Iran situation. Like, of course Iran hates the U.S. Has anyone read the last half of the 20th century of the U.S. fucking with Iran? Of course they hate us. Why wouldn't they? Very justified to hate us. It's like, you know, not fucking with countries is what would fix this, but no, gotta keep fucking with countries. It's ridiculous. So, who knows? Who knows what'll happen with North Korea? I mean, at the very least, Japan isn't getting all these flybys every other month, which is good. That's a nice change since, you know, since Daddy Kim Jong-il died. It's been a nice change, but, yeah. Who knows, man? It's here's the thing. We're all inside, you know. We're all inside the tent. It's going to burn down. You just got to grab the popcorn and enjoy. If you can't laugh at the happenings, I mean, what else can you do? The only other option would be to cry. What happens if somebody snaps their fingers and all of a sudden all countries could talk to each other? Yeah, I mean, a universal language would definitely level the playing field. I'd argue that the convergence of languages because of, you know, European colonialism over the last couple of centuries, despite the obviously horrors of all the colonialism, the benefit is that now we're down to just like kind of 5 languages. Like, realistically, if you can speak English, French, Mandarin Chinese, Arabic, and then what's the last one? What would another one be? American English. No. Probably German. There's a couple of German colony areas. If you can speak all those, or maybe Russian, like a Cyrillic language. If you can speak all those, you can talk to almost everyone in the world on just like 5 languages, which is a bit convenient. You know, it will definitely help things going forward. And, you know, I know because of like airplanes and shit, like English is sort of the global default, but, you know, It's for one thing's for sure. It's better than trying to pivot every single person in the world into something really fucking stupid like Esperanto. No one is going to learn goddamn Esperanto outside of an Ivy League school. Whoever the fuck came up with that is such an idiot. I swear to God, only university types could think, "Oh, how about we just invent a new language that everyone has to learn?" No, you know, cool your tits, bro. Let's start with a language that at least 1 billion people already know and work our way up from there. And that's where you get like 5 languages of like Arabic, English, French, Mandarin, and whatever. So, Spanish. That's what I was thinking. I'm sorry. That is what I was thinking. Spanish. Obviously Spanish. That is what I was thinking. I mean, And then, you know, if you round out top 10, then you can add in Hindi and Portuguese and German and all these other languages too. So it is good long term, and there's enough language translation softwares that, you know, or for the most part, we're going to be able to speak to each other pretty realistically, like pretty soon. There's a lot of translation stuff. So, you know, it'll be good, hopefully. So long as there's like a global, like, you know, EMP event and all data, you know, all digitally recorded information is just like wiped out like it's fucking, like it's fucking Escape from Los Angeles or something. Or, what was that show, Revolution? Where all the nanobots like turn off all the power across the world. Are you talking about a world order where bronies reign supreme? Yes. Only bronies as the leaders of every government. That would increase the love and tolerance levels across the board for sure. Ever think of making some classical fantasy stuff like wizards and overlords? You know, although I've expressed my general distaste for that kind of fiction in the past, I do actually have a fairly well-developed high fantasy kind of story that sort of got made for it started out as a brony project type thing, but then evolved from there. But then the group I was producing it with just completely broke apart. So I do still have all the raw materials of that story, and I might turn it into a novel or something eventually. So I think it's a neat idea. We will see if it goes somewhere, but yeah. Let's go back to the caveman. Yes, I agree. I agree. Global ozone destruction. We turn all the CFRs and we blow them up in the sky and remove the ozone layer, and then everyone could go back to being cave people for a while. And we'll just see what happens. You know. Yeah. No, not the kids. They can be molded for better. Yeah. Yeah, we could try. Yeah, we could try to teach the children, all the little children of the world. The funny thing about people, though, is that people don't really change. It's yeah, it's gonna be interesting the next century. Okay, where are we at? We're at an hour and a half. Good run so far. So, one more half hour. We'll round it out at 2 hours, like is becoming standard for the BananaCast, you know, to keep it within the Netflix rendering dynamic for whatever reason. So that way, if you miss the beginning, you'll be able to jump back to it right away, hopefully. So yeah, is there any other questions or topics you guys would like to expound upon? I see we're also forwarding caveman language. I agree. Well, I'm pretty sure caveman language is just gonna sound like the Flintstones, right? So we're all gonna talk like some kind of prehistoric Brooklyners. If the Flintstones are any kind of guiding force for us. I always like the Hanna-Barbera headcanon of the surface of Earth is the Flintstones, and then every 100 miles or so are just the metal spires that go up into the atmosphere, and that's the Jetsons. That they exist at the same time, like it's the time machine, and you've got the future Morlock society that have, like, co-evolved and devolved into different, like, class structures. Oh, man, that would be exciting. It's crazy going back to some of those old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. What a time capsule. Even some stuff in there can get pretty. You can't do that on TV anymore. Yabba dabba doo. Yeah, that's the good stuff. I remember I grew up, back in the 90s. I do remember we got the Boomerang channel for a little while. So even when the Cartoon Network wasn't airing any like classical blocks, I would occasionally flip over to Boomerang and, you watch old Space Ghost or, oh, Johnny Quest, man. That was another classic Hanna-Barbera. The theme song for Johnny Quest and then the remake in the 90s was so good. It's just such a well-crafted score. Very, excuse me, hiccups. Very memorable. The original version is a bit more like, classical 60s style, like, TV scoring. But then the remake in the 90s had a really interesting like synthy remix to it. The bum bum ba-da-da-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum ba-ba-ba-bum bum ba-ba-la-la-la-ba-ba-ba. Yeah, Johnny Quest music was good stuff. Shh, you gotta be quiet, chat. You can't tell nobody that you snuck onto the live chat. See, here's the thing. As I've said before, each individual, person on the channel, they control their videos. So if Needle or James want to shut down comments or block stuff on their videos, it's kind of within their purview. That's basically it's like the Magna Carta of EAST Corp Productions. The whole concept of the channel was James and I were just so fucking sick of Stable Tech being gatekeepers. And so we wanted to be able to post whatever we wanted and do whatever we wanted with the platform. And so that's basically the governing agreement. So Kelly or Needle or I or James can post whatever we want on the channel with basically no like approval from the others, except if it's like a conjoined canonicity thing where James was taking up all the races during the Great War, and I'd be like, wait, dude, you remember we already have the new Crystal Commonwealth in our episode 6. This is like the one time I asked James to change something about something he was gonna post, and naturally from that umbrella is then on their videos they can do what they want as far as banning or muting or deleting comments or whatnot. So I don't care. I'm just saying, I look past it. I just ignore it. If it's something, if something you can't say on TV, if it's one of those bad words like tits or something, I can't say that, obviously, we don't want Susan coming with her Wojcinskis to jack us up, to zuck us in place. But yeah, but at the same time, I don't care. Anyway, so like I was saying, what was I saying? Johnny Quest? I don't know. The Hanna-Barbera stuff is great, obviously. Hanna-Barbera made some good stuff. Original creators of Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Where Are You? And a whole bunch of super famous properties that are still out and about there. Boy, those are some properties that they really could, like, reboot again. Like, I know Adult Swim has been running the Venture Brothers nonstop, which is, the comedic parody take, but it's also in the same universe as Johnny Quest. But it's like, a real, honest, genuine Johnny Quest and Flintstones and Jetsons. I think there could be a lot of potential in those. They could really expand from those old properties, those famous properties, and make them interesting again. I don't know. It seems like there's something they could do. During oh yeah, that's right, C Labs. Oh yeah, Courage the Cowardly Dog. It turns everyone into intelligent bananas. That's right. That's the origin of the channel, obviously. Oh man. Courage, speaking of animated series music, Courage the Cowardly Dog music, man, that stuff was really quality too. That was, especially the Cats theme. I think we've talked about this before, but Courage the Cowardly Dog had really, really good music to it. And partially it's because it was sort of a horror show. It was a Monster of the Week type show, and horror requires really quality music to make it really, really scary. And Courage the Cowardly Dog did that really well. I gotta say. That's right. All hail the great Banana. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Speaking of which, totally legit recap of Rainbow Rocks Part 3 has just dropped on the DWK channel. When you're done with this, do the same as me and go on over and watch that, because that's probably going to be very enjoyable. So, that's right. The Tower of Dr. Zalos. That was a great episode. Oh yeah, there was the episode where they talk about Courage's parents. There's the Return the Slab. There's a lot of good episodes, man. Courage the Cowardly Dog had such like great writing, really great concepts and storytelling into it. There's one where it turns Muriel into like a toddler again, and she's like, I hate macaroni and cheese. Like, just eat the fucking mac and cheese already. Oh, man. Freaky Fred, that's right. When you're feeling naughty. That was probably the best possible way to warn kids of a creepy uncle. Like, I can't, it was not tasteful. It was still extremely unsettling, but that was like the best way to communicate to a younger kid, like, hey, if there's like a creepy uncle and he's touching you in ways that you don't find comfortable, trying to shave you or whatever, talking about being naughty, you know, fucking tell someone and they're gonna put him in a straitjacket. Oh man, that's another thing where it's like, maybe only in that time could they really get away with some stuff like that. I don't know. Some stuff on TV these days, it might be dark sad, but it's not like that. Like, that is something else. Return the Slab. That's right. The main and Gauls, King Ramesses. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Cajun Fox. The monster from Return to Slab is a hyper weird from the hyperspace dimension. Interesting. Is that like the Star Weirds from the Star Wars comics? I remember reading about that or watching a thing about that on the Eckhart's Ladder channel. He talks about the Star Weirds sometimes. I never got that deep into the Star Wars Legends expanded universe, but that was neat. I like the idea of like some kind of ethereal force beings in the great vacuum of hyperspace that just appear and you know, creep the fuck out of you. Most of my Star Wars EU knowledge is basically Clone Wars. It's Clone Wars and some Rebels and some of the games and tertiary properties like that. But as far as the books and stuff go, I really don't know. Oh yeah, the zombie filmmakers. That was good. Man, speaking of zombie films, I want my third 28 Weeks Later movie. We had 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, and it sounds like now we're gonna have to wait fucking 28 years later to finally get 28 Years Later, about how they're all up in France and stuff. Oh man, I loved those movies. Those are really great movies, but I want more. I want more 28 Laters movies. Schwick was the cockroach. Yes, that sounds right. According to Geeks and Gamers, George Lucas has been brought into Star Wars Episode 9. Is he really? That might actually return some asses to seats to see Star Wars Episode 9. Asses that might have left seats after Episode 8 or Solo. That would be interesting for sure. I don't know if it's going to work, but if they did do that, it would be very, it would be something else. I'm still waiting for a name. I thought we were going to get that at the Super Bowl. A name and a general idea of the plot. But It sounds like they're really keeping that under lock and key for a while. So who knows when we're going to hear, about that. Yeah, 28 decades and then 28 millenniums later. Yeah, 28 millenniums later, when the whole world has been zombies for a long time, and like people have evolved beyond it, but then other people have evolved into super zombies, and then it basically is like a time machine rewrite of some kind. Is sort of that approach to things. The fast zombies are actually intimidating, but still in the real world, the military would be able to beat them. Yes. I mean, yeah, in the general sense. Of course, it's the chaos and the viral transmutability of the zombie plague that makes them scary. But I liked 28 Weeks, some of the subtle things like the hypochromia, the different eye colors being able to prevent them from becoming zombies, but being carriers. Is that amatochromia? Anyway, where they have the two different eye colors. I thought that was a really clever, interesting way to represent, like, being a carrier immunity to being the zombies. 20 yeah, don't forget 28 centuries before 28 millenniums later. Yes, of course. Can't forget that. Cannot forget that. Wait, what? When you fill them full of holes, but they don't stop. No, I mean Night of the Living Dead. Literally unstoppable. I know for me, my favorite is Return of the Living Dead. That was the one in the 80s with the Tar Man at the very beginning, where it was like the army experiment, and they crack open like the sealed sarcophagus, and Tar Man melts his way out, and he's like, brains. Yeah. That was a classic, man. If you haven't seen Return of the Living Dead, it's very 80s. A good primer on that would be the Red Letter Media. They just recently did, I think it was a review of Return of the Living Dead. And they break it down really well about where it comes from and it's the writing history behind it. And also a general overview about how it added a lot of interesting things to zombie lore. How well executed it was. I'm excited for Last of Us Part 2. Yes, I never finished Last of Us Part 1, or started it really, but I liked the concept. They took a very unique approach to a zombie-type creature with the cordyceps, scary-ass fungus insect zombies. That was very clever. 28 millenniums later, the Imperial Crusade find a planet founded by Vault-Tec in the golden age of humanity, where everyone's become ghouls, except the whole galaxy is also ponies. That's right. We're going to cram our Warhammer 40k into our Fallout Equestria and mix it all up and slurp it down. The Last of Us 2, Last of the Lesbians. I don't know if it's going to be Last of the Lesbians. It does bring up an interesting point, though, of like, if Ellie really does have the immunity or the cure, like come on, man, you gotta pass that on somehow. I don't know if it'd be like donate your eggs or something, but you can't just you can't let that die with you. You gotta find a way to transmit that cure to other people first. It's and if the only way to do that is to have a few kids, you might have to take one for humanity. I don't know. Wait, they're making a Shining 2, Doctor Sleep? What? Is that a new book or a new movie? I didn't like Last of Us because Joel is an unlikable douchebag. I wouldn't actually know. Like I said, I have The Last of Us, but I never really played it, so yeah, so I don't know. Pet Sematary, that's right. Pet Sematary is coming out. That's going to be an interesting remake. Yeah, Stephen King, man. How many movies have been made of his books and shit now? That's like, he's filthy rich. I think he's in the hundreds of millions now, right? I don't know. If he isn't, he should be by this point with just the sheer number of properties that have been made out of his stuff. Gosh. Anyway, yeah. So the cordyceps, that's a very clever, zombie kind of thing. There was already a Pet Sematary movie. Yeah. No, I think that's what most people are familiar with more than the book. But yeah, the remake does look good. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I wish Dark Tower had started at the beginning and not the end. Oh, really? Yeah, I know the Dark Tower is like a really big, like, epic series, but whoo, boy, was that Dark Tower movie shit. I hate to say it, because I do like a lot of Stephen King properties, but I don't really know the Dark Tower series at all, and oof, that movie... That was not good advertising for the series for someone who doesn't know it well. It seemed really, really haphazard and random. Like, it really felt like a fanfic almost. Like someone had cobbled together like a lot of different genres in a way that they really didn't know how. And I don't think that was Stephen King himself. It sounds like, based on the following that the Dark Tower series has, that he did it well. It's just the adaptation that didn't do it well. And it was also short. It was like 88 minutes for a story that really feels like it needed like a Lord of the Rings length to fully explore and fully invest people in. So I feel bad for fans of the series. I know they fucked it up. I'm sure it's much better than what the movie presented, but that is what the movie presented. So, ass-eating space Mughlai? What? How much ass can you eat in a Stephen King book? Oh, yeah, that's right. Don't eat the deer because now there's a zombie deer prion disease spreading all over the U.S. Norway killed an entire herd for fear it might jump to humans. Yeah, man. That's something we could mention, speaking of zombies. Chronic wasting disease. I know the zombie deer that is very sensational. It's not quite like that. It sounds like similar kind of prion diseases where it just rots your brain, where eventually, like, the deer just get so, like, brain damaged, they stop eating, and because they stop eating, they are chronically wasting, and so they just get skinnier and skinnier. And, like, if they have infections, like, I think it fucks with their immune system, too. So a small, like, bleeding wound then just gets infected and becomes a big, ugly, gangrenous wound and stuff. So, yeah, it's, and then they just die. So that's really horrible. And it's spreading through the deer in the U.S., which sucks. But, yeah, if it crosses the humans, that would be a big deal. Like, everyone forgets that AIDS started with chimpanzees, and that crossed to humans, and that wasn't a good thing. Black Plague started with rats, and then it transmitted from the rats through the fleas to humans. That wasn't good. And same for mad cow disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob, and yeah. Animal to human disease crossovers are never a good thing. Obviously, smallpox came from animals at one point because the original smallpox vaccine was derived from cowpox. Sky, how many Stephen King movies have you seen? A lot, a handful, some. I've seen, like, the original It movie from, like, the 90s with, Tim Curry. I've seen The Langoliers, too. It's a very wonky movie, but I like the whole concept of the Langoliers as, mythical beings, whatever, like time eaters. Really, my ultimate favorite is The Mist, specifically the Frank Darabont movie The Mist, which is a short story of Stephen King's, but I always thought that was really good. Beyond that, I'm not super familiar with most of his work. I'm not like a super fan with him like I am of like Michael Crichton, for instance. But, I know enough about general Stephen King stuff as much as he is in pop culture. So, yeah. It's like Mad Cow, but aggressive. Very aggressive, and they don't fear humans, and it stays in the ground for 7 years like Parvo? Oh, damn. That's really bad. Yeah, that's my understanding of prions also, and it's the reason why even cooked meat doesn't kill the prions, is because they're basically like mutated, like misshapen proteins. So any protein that survives like fire or like water or insects or whatever in the same way, a prion can survive them because it's like a basic sort of molecule. It's not it's even less than a virus. Like a virus is not really alive either, but it's a more like concrete shape. Whereas a prion is just a pile of like broken proteins. But if your body absorbs those proteins, it starts miscopying those proteins over and over again. And then you're just fucking dead. Now, I have also heard various other theories to AIDS. I believe the leading one is CIA, though, more so than others. The Black Plague started from tick. Okay, yeah, tick versus flea. Yes, The Mist was great. Frank Darabont is a genius. And what is bad is there isn't a cure. Yeah, just like other prions, there really is no cure. You just kind of die, and then we really got to burn your corpse, probably. Speaking of which, do you see the 2017 remake? No. Very specifically because of how much I liked the Frank Darabont The Mist, I didn't want to see the remake because just from the previews, I know it's like a mini-series, and I know I wouldn't like it as much. However, speaking of streaming properties, I did watch the 11/22/63, the Kennedy assassination Stephen King miniseries that starred what's his name? Damn it, what's his name? He's in the first Spider-Man movie, the high guy, Seth Rogen's buddy. Damn it, I forget his name. Anyway, I saw that. That was a good series. That was a really interesting alternate history concept. That's right. The EAST Corp solution is kill it with a nuke. Absolutely. And that is one reason, actually, I really liked the Michael Crichton Andromeda Strain book for numerous reasons. But one of the big ones was the one solution they had at their biological research laboratory of what was it? Project Wildfire was an atomic bomb built in the bottom. But then they discovered that the Andromeda strain, because of what it is and the way it mutated, it could absorb energy. And so if they had nuked it and blew it up, it would have spread this horrific cloud over the entire world and everyone would have died. And that was really interesting. Especially the ending of Andromeda Strain is really ominous and vague too. It basically talks about like, yeah, so we know we don't have it contained. Like, there's a police officer that carries it, and then there's like, you know, they confirm that it spread to Los Angeles, but no one started dropping dead yet. And yeah, it just kind of ends in this really ominous, like, we'll see what happens. We'll see if it mutates any further. Oh, man. All right. Well, this was a fun podcast. We talked about the Pokies Men. Oh, we talked about the giant brony, the end of ponies survey and conventions and stuff. And talked about some good old-fashioned random shit. So, is there anything anyone would like to talk about in the last 5 minutes here before we close things out? Got the last couple of minutes here to round things out for the weekend. Everybody's looking for the weekend. That's all. That's all, folks. I can't do the stuttering thing. I know some VAs work really hard to get that Porky Pig stutter just right, but I've never put the time in to figure out the exact mechanic. I remember one of the newer Porky Pig VAs, he broke it down how he does it, but that's hard, man. And I'm also not really a voice actor. You know, I'm just some dude on the internets. Have you seen Game of Thrones? Yes, I've been a fan of Game of Thrones since season 2, basically. It's yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited for the end. I've got all the other seasons on Blu-ray. Just like with Pony, I'm looking forward to buying the final Blu-ray and then shotgunning all of that at some point. What is your opinion on toasters? My opinion on toasters is they never work well enough. You need a toaster repair pony to help you out, to help assist out. When is the next live stream? That is a good question. I did put a feeler into the chat to see what when our next podcast could be, but what's always frustrating is like when I asked the chat, like, hey, would sometime in the next, window of time work for anyone? Instead of getting back, like, schedule answers, which is what I'm kind of expecting, I'm like, okay, I'm free for the next 30 hours. When are you free? And they're like, oh, man, it's got to be at a specific time. They never say the time. Just tell me when you're free, and I could probably schedule a group podcast, but no. So, fuck it. I don't know. Whenever one of them comes up to me and I happen to be free also, that's when the next live stream will be. But then again, I'm sure Nita will continue her waifu cast as well. I'm sure, she has the flavor for them. It just depends on if she has the free time. What is a coincidence that Ponies and GOT is going to begin in April 2019? Yeah, it is really funny, actually. I discovered Game of Thrones in basically the same context as Pony 2, where Season 1 had ended, and I started off Season 2 after watching the Season 1, like Blu-rays or DVDs. So it is really interesting, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Game of Thrones and My Little Pony. Absolutely. Oh God, that makes me have to go back. I gotta keep listening to Upheaval. I know that Forest Rain is still uploading the audiobooks chapters, and I haven't listened since like chapter 10 of Reckoning. But that is good stuff. You know nothing, Jon Snow. I am glad they brought him back. I remember after season 4 or 6 when he died, everyone was like, oh shit, is he just dead now? And I was like, I kind of hope they bring him back. I mean, Ned Stark is gone, Robb Stark is gone, Littlefinger's an asshole. It's like, Jon was really like the main character of the show. Like, you really got to keep him, hopefully. So, I don't know. Anyway, I think that's pretty good. We went a decently long time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Once again, we will be at BabsCon, absolutely for sure. Hopefully, Everfree as well. Any donations you make to BananaCast or whatever over the next 2 months will go into our help us pay for BabsCon fund. So we appreciate anything you can offer. That would be great. And we're going to hopefully make it another fun-ass time and do some live streaming and all the good stuff. And we will hopefully have some great stuff to premiere there as well. But anyway, thank you all for joining us, and talk to you again, if not on the next podcast, on the next episode of BananaCast.